any chance of seeing it? Very clean.
Astounding.
After watching a number of kind of westerns recently and reviewing them, I kind of took a wee break and decided to watch a war film instead. And this one is kind of different. 1951's Fixed Bayonets, directed and written by Samuel Fuller, who I know the name, quite a famous name, but I really couldn't kind of place him or think of anything I had seen that he made, to be honest. I think I did watch a little bit of The Big Red One, which is a very famous war film. And there was another film that I have seen that he directed. But he's kind of primarily known for war films and kind of drawing on his war experiences from the Second World War and from the Korean War, etc. And doing kind of more, less jingoistic, less kind of propaganda-based kind of stories, or putting them across in a kind of more realistic kind of war is gruesome, there's no real heroes, that kind of, or there's no real kind of glory, that kind of style of filmmaking. I think he was kind of a bit of a experimental filmmaker, or on the fringes of the mainstream. He kind of did low budget kind of that kind of films. So basically, you have a platoon of American soldiers. This was set during the Korean War, I think in the winter phase of 1951 or something. And they're up in this kind of mountainous pass in their snow winter war gear, and they're white. And basically, they're having to retreat. The Americans are having to retreat from the advancing Chinese army. And they're in this kind of mountainous pass. So they have to get across this exposed bridge further down land. So basically, they select this troop of kind of like a sacrificial platoon to kind of hold this kind of mountainous pass, this bottleneck, to keep the Chinese from coming through and attacking the main column that's retreating. And that's your basic story. And this group consists of Richard Basehart is probably the most famous actor in this film. I have heard of him and I recognize his face. And he plays Corporal Deno, who's kind of the main character in here. He's not the main in-your-face character, but he is the main story, part of the story. He's kind of lost his nerve, or he's never been able to kill in battle. And when he gets the opportunity to shoot one of the soldiers, he kind of doesn't do it. So he's dreading taking command. He's got two other people in front of him that are in charge, and if they get taken out, then he will be leading the 48 men, which he's dreading.
Face to face with the strangest fear a soldier ever had.
Some men are afraid of high places, some are afraid of water. And some are afraid to be responsible for the deaths of a lot of other guys. That's me, Rob.
You also have, I think it's Gene Evans, who's a very good actor. I think Samuel Fuller used him in a number of his films, and he's a very good actor. He plays Sergeant, can't remember his name now, I have to look it up. Sergeant Rock, and that's an appropriate name because he is kind of the rock of this platoon. Everyone looks up to him, and he's a no frills kind of sergeant. He just gets on and bites a bullet and gets on and does it. There's a few other characters as well. You've got Whitey, played by Skip Homey here, a very early appearance by Skip Homey, a very famous Western actor. And he plays this kind of overly talkative, overly educated kind of soldier who knows everything about everything, stalagmite scientific things, and he's kind of annoying. But you have a few stereotypical characters also, like you have maybe a kind of motor-mouth Italian soldier and a few other soldiers that are kind of typical stereotypes. But it does well to avoid your overstepping the mark into stereotypes of this film. But basically, there's not a lot of action in this film. It's mostly, there is quite a lot of explosions and stuff, but mostly they're kind of they're pinned in this rock face, in this cave that kind of appears after this mortar shell blows a hole in the side of the mountain. So they have to take shelter in here, and they're basically in there for quite a lot of the film, and you get a lot of this kind of banter and stuff between the men, and it's very well done in that regard. So basically, the men have to put up with obviously the winter kind of warfare kind of conditions, frostbite and such like, and just general cold and miserable conditions. Also, that obviously they're getting shelled continuously, and they're kind of on the lookout for the Chinese sneaking up on them. They also plant this minefield, which is kind of superfluous really to the film, because it doesn't seem to deter the Chinese in any way. It's actually a hindrance to the men themselves, Americans, because it poses all kinds of problems for them. So this minefield kind of generates one of the probably the most tense scene in the whole film. It's a very, very well done scene of Corporal Deno, Richard Basehart, having to kind of navigate his way through this minefield to reach one of his injured colleagues and retrieve him from the battlefield, as it were. But it's a great scene, really is tense. It's lots of close up of his feet, and yeah, it's a really well made, well done scene, that one. But I enjoyed this film. There's not a lot of action in it, and basically, one big negative for me is it's obviously really all shot in a soundstage in a studio, so the sets are all kind of polystyrene rock faces and all that, and it's very unrealistic. That kind of does take you out of the movie, so it's a big negative for me. But the actual drama, the actual kind of go between the men, it keeps you watching. Definitely keeps you watching. It's an interesting film. Gene Evans is great as Sergeant Rock, and although Richard Basehart is a very famous actor, I think it doesn't really. He's in the background really. He's kind of mulling things over in his head all the time. You hear him doing this voiceover in his head of he's wondering when he's going to have to take over the command of the men, and he's dreading it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I'll have to check out Samuel Fuller's other films. He did another film before this Korean War film called Steel Helmet, and he wrote a film, I can't remember, Tank Force or something, around this time. But he did a lot of war films in his time. He's quite, I think he's quite, he would pick quite controversial topics for his filmmaking, and maybe a slightly different angle to the kind of more jingoistic kind of John Wayne, that kind of war films that are coming out at this time. This is a more kind of, down to earth, bare tax kind of war is horrible and people get killed and there's no rhyme or reason to who gets killed kind of thing. There's no kind of glory and there's no overt heroism in his films. So I enjoyed it for what it was. I wouldn't say it gets varying reviews in the sense of very high reviews. I think Rotten Tomatoes gives it 100% and things like that. I think IMDb gives 6.9. I would give it in the high sixes, definitely, yeah. So it's a pretty decent watch. There's one thing that made me laugh was when they go into this cave, they're all kind of freezing and kind of in these freezing conditions, worrying about getting frostbite in their feet and everything. And they have this kind of bonding scene, weird bonding scene, where they all take the boots and socks off and kind of put their feet together to keep warm. And they're all worried about their socks being wet and everything. But then there's this kind of puddle in the cave, and they're all traipsing and falling through here all the time. You'd think they'd be avoiding it like the plague. I mean, last thing you want to do in freezing conditions is get wet, but they seem to trample and fall in it and everything, which is the worst thing you could possibly do. But it just made me laugh, that part. But yeah, not a bad little film, Fixed Bayonets. There's not a lot of action in it. There's a burst of action at the end, 10 minutes, the last 10 minutes maybe. But an interesting watch, definitely. And I'd like to check out more of Samuel Fuller's work. That's Fixed Bayonets from 1951. Not a bad little war film.